Hey everyone, Sylvie J is back. I'm just coming because I realize it's been a while since I've been back on here, and lots have happened through the time that I was not on here. And truthfully, um, I originally started the channel because I wanted to um, I wanted to speak to a population. I'm in healthcare, so I wanted to speak to everyone about the importance of being proactive in their care, in their healthcare, and what that looks like. Um, that was the original plan when I started, and I still want to do that. Today, I'm actually coming on because I've been struggling with some things. And it is going to be a little moment of vulnerability. However, there is also some hidden hope. Maybe it's not so hidden hope, actually. It's also part of taking care of your health. One aspect of that is our mental health, just as we need to be active um, in our physical health or in our physical health journey. Um, I also think it's equally important that we take hold of our mental health journey also. Um, so, having said all of that, one of the things that's been weighing on me is I've I've grown up in a Caribbean background, and and we value education, we value family. Um, there is so much that we do value. In these values, though, I believe we, as this generation that have migrated or have grown up in the States, we have there have been some things that probably have led us to misinterpret some of the things that our own parents or our grandparents have been trying to teach us. At least that was in my case. So, um, I appreciate all of the teachings. I appreciate, um, by the way, there's no script. And I did that only because if I have a script, I don't believe that I would be as sincere. And the way this is recorded is exactly how it's going to be put up here with all of my stuttering and everything else unplanned. I do have some notes that I want to stay with, but overall, I wanted to make sure that this is as authentic as it can be. Um, so, what I actually want to talk about today is the unhealthy side of perfectionism. I know that we've probably heard that word, and we've probably thrown it around just because it was something that we can just throw around. Um, but I want to talk a little bit about that. So there is healthy or adaptive type of perfectionism. Actually, there are two different types. So this is going to be the teaching part, and somewhere in the between, I'm going to sprinkle some things in about how that relates to me. Um, and I do not claim to be a psychologist or a therapist, um, but these are some things that I have done for me and have worked along with my own therapist, discovering some of those things. So, perfectionism, what is that? Perfectionism, I think sometimes we throw the word around to mean somebody who always wants everything perfect, um, or wants to do everything perfect. Um, it it doesn't tell that, but it's more than just a behavior. It is a mindset that had developed. Let me make sure I get my notes right. A mindset that has developed as a result of things that people have experienced. early life experiences where people want feel or equate love or affirmation to performance, or where they want to feel accepted, safe, loved, and have leaned towards that end of the unhealthy spectrum of perfectionism. Um, so where do I want to go with this? So, as I said, perfectionism is a mindset, um, and it's not just a behavior. Um, when your sense of worth is attached, is tied to your performance, it's tied to your worth, your achievements. Then you've leaned into the maladaptive or the unhealthy type of perfectionism. It's I talk to people and I tell them strive for excellence, and perfectionism is a little bit more than that. So let me say this while I am here. Um, there are different ways that perfectionism can show. Mine is self-directed. It's not social. It's not directed at anyone else. I don't have the expectation that people should behave and operate like me. These are my standards, what I think for myself, or what I have been dealing with, and how I perceive um, things for myself. So, for excellence is striving beyond excellence is one of those characteristics where I guess I should define excellence. Excellence um, is being is doing um, your very best at learning and growing yourself. Um, as people would say, putting your best foot forward. Now, perfectionism takes that and then brings that a little bit further to include flawlessness. Um, they equate your best to flawlessness. It also, with that same mindset, comes with the fear of failure, fear of rejection. Um, so yeah. Um, so uh, Unhealthy perfectionism is usually driven by fear, by pressure, or the belief that less than perfect is unacceptable. So in how does that show up in anyone? Again, I'm gonna be talking about some general and how it shows up in me. So for me, I have the tendency to overgeneralize, and that's one of the things. Um, when I say overgeneralize, I there could be a big thing that I probably did and everything went well. But because that one thing did not go, it seems to stick out in my head. And that's the only thing, it overshadows all the good that I have done because that one thing did not go right. So there are high standards that we put up. Um, and not that high standards are wrong, um, because that's also something that's in the healthier or the adaptive perfectionism. But those high standards in healthy are realistic, whereas these high standards are unrealistic. Um, and that's not saying that that's always me. I do have high standards, and I'm working on the realistic aspects of it. And like I said, that's not always me. Harsh self talk is another way that it shows up. Um, the one that I struggle with right now is procrastination and avoidance. Um, and that the root of that is to protect me from actually failing. And um and sometimes that is also linked to decision paralysis, so not wanting to make the wrong decision. So as a result of um, not wanting to make the wrong decisions, or that I might have so many choices and I need to pick one, so that could be overwhelming. And so it kind of makes you kind of stuck, and then the time passes and you still need to make the decision, which leads to anxiety, which leads to that overwhelming sense that you need to do something, but you don't know what it is, but you have to choose something, but you don't want to be wrong. Um, that again, that heightens anxiety, and that's another way it shows up. It's anxiety. Another way that it shows up is overfunctioning, in that I take on more responsibilities than I need to. I can say no, um, but I take on a lot. I'm learning, and I have learned to say no. And it's not necessarily people pleasing for me or anything. I don't really know where that stems from, truthfully. Um, Maybe it has a lot to do with the fact that I've taken on so many things I don't have to. So learning to rest is the opposite of that. Which also difficulty resting is one of those. Like I said, I have my notes. Let's see. What else? It shows up, like I said, as anxiety, guilt, constant self criticism. We talked about decision paralysis. Um, Now, where do we go from here? Um, how do we heal? First and foremost, awareness, which is why we're having this conversation. We need to be aware that it exists and that it exists in us, that we need to own that. And then we need to start trying to reframe our failure, or reframe the idea of failure. Um, we need to practice self compassion. Funny thing is, I tell people, give yourself grace all the time. And I encourage people to do that for themselves. And I do that for other people. Um, I really am hard on myself a lot. Um, and the biggest thing I think that's associated with this is the release of control. Um, Anyways, when I started coming here, I was talking to my husband and I told him, hey, I'm going to do this video and I wanted to talk about perfectionism in the light of Thanksgiving. And I did not know how it was going to transition or how it was going to do it. Um, but the truth is, being or having the mindset of gratitude really will diminish some of the voices of the perfectionism that runs through our minds if we find things to constantly be grateful for, or rather, if we make ourselves aware of the things that we are grateful for. So in this season of Thanksgiving or in the holidays coming, many of us will suffer some disappointments. At the same time, we will have experienced lots of love, lots of the love that this holiday season brings, some of the warmth. Um, and we need to look towards that and have a grateful mindset to kind of offset this perfectionism mindset that we have, those of us who have it. Um, let's see. I wrote my note here. It says, perfectionism thrives on deficit thinking. what is not enough, what is not done, what's not right, what could go wrong. However, Thanksgiving thrives on abundance thinking, focusing on what already is, what has been given, what is good right now, even in the imperfection. So, gratitude definitely weakens perfectionism. So, today I choose to be grateful. Um, I'm grateful because God has blessed me with life, health, and strength. I'm grateful for discovering new aspects of me, which, by the way, I'll see if I can. That just peaked something. I'll see if I'll. Let's see how I feel about it. But I'll probably put in some pictures of some of the things that I've done. So, in the season of me trying to figure all of this out, I've also discovered there's so much creativity that I have, but I'm so critical of it. So, but I'm going to put it, actually, I am going to share it. There are a few things that I am going to share. I don't know where I'm going to insert it, but I will insert it in here. So the first thing I am going to insert is a project at work that I did. Had no idea I could do it. Someone asked me to do it, and what came out was something beautiful. While it was beautiful and so on and so forth, I still was able to find things that was like not good about it, which I'm not gonna point out, and which I ended up talking to my therapist about it, and we had lengthy conversation about that. Also, I tried sewing in my first sewing project. I'll put it up here too. Um, again, all these things I'm saying, I found something that was wrong with them. But in the grand scheme of things, I did them and they're not bad. And so I'm grateful that I was given the opportunities to discover skills that I didn't think that I had. Um, my remote fell, so that's what's happening here. So yeah. What else? Did I do? I also started coloring, and I'm going to put up some of my coloring pages. And I was challenged by my therapist for one of them to use a limited amount of colors. Again, uh, I had to work on picking from a vast number of colors to just have, I believe it was 5 colors. Um, And then I actually ended up doing a little bit more than 5, but that was close. And there were parts of it where I did procrastinate because I was like, it's going to be wrong. But yeah, that was an exercise that helped me get through some of those things. So you know what? I'll put them in here so that you'll be able to see. Um, Anyway, so I'm grateful for those opportunities because they allow me to see other aspects that God has blessed me with, other gifts, in expressing them. I'm able to deal with the fact that they're not perfect, but they were done and that I was able to complete them. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that my husband was able to see another year of life. I'm grateful that my parents are still in good health. My siblings are in good health. I'm grateful that we were able to spend time together recently. And I'm looking for more time to spend with them. So I hope this is the beginning of my list. And I hope you can add to that list, to your list of things that we can be grateful for, not just because it's Thanksgiving, which today is. And I'll probably load this up after Thanksgiving, but not just because it's Thanksgiving. I want us to find those things that we are grateful for? Um, that we're grateful for um, every day. Small things, big things. Birds chirping. That is warm today and not cold as it could be. That the sun came up. Thankful for the rain because that will bring about the spring flowers and everything else. Those things. My goodness. Nature itself is a tool that will teach us how to live with imperfections because the fall reminds us that things do die and the spring reminds us new life, for which I am grateful for. What are you grateful for? What are you going to concentrate on? What things will bring you to a space of gratitude that will help you diminish the mindset of perfectionism? Your choice.